All right, guys, welcome to our second lecture. As I said in the introduction, and I said last week, about the first 3 weeks of class, we're going to focus on our own organizations as opposed to anything in marketing. And the reason is you can't do anything with any kind of strategy unless you understand your organization. And research says, and I'm personally convinced that people really don't have a clue about their own product, their own organization. And you guys did a great job this week of describing your core product. And so, what we're going to look at today is kind of the concept of strategic marketing. This is really laying out like an overview of what it is. One, you're going to do for your first assignment, but this is also kind of the steps you go about as far as the overview of developing a marketing plan. So we need people that are marketing minded in sport. I think we have some people who are good leaders. I think a lot of times particularly at small organizations, we don't have people who are in the process of trying to market. It gets pushed to the back burner, and you really need to be able to do two things. You need to be able to look at a kind of a strategy or a big concept, a 30,000 foot view, and then you need tactics or the details to a plan. And what I find most often is that people can think in a big picture sometimes. They know what it should look like, but they're not very good at the details of getting there. And so in this marketing planning process, we're trying to kind of integrate with our overall vision of our organization. And it's a 5-step process. And we won't really necessarily do all 5 steps in this class, but we'll use some of the steps. And so this kind of is just a graphic that kind of lays out all of how this thing is kind of laid together. And it's not that important necessarily that you know this. It just gives you an understanding of kind of where research falls in, where the 5 P's of marketing fall in. We're really more concerned with the 5 steps. And that first step is that we want to develop a vision, a position, and a purpose. So we want a core vision. So an organization not only has to have a vision, but it's got to have some core values that are going to help move our marketing forward. So in other words, it does us no good to put a marketing plan in process if we don't have some kind of vision of what we want that thing to look like. So this is an example of Ohio State's core visions. And I'm not sure if these are still the same or not, but these are some examples I found. They want education and enrichment of the student athlete. They want integrity in all aspects of behavior, innovation, in approach and spirit, excellence throughout the organization, respect for the individual, and a tradition of leadership. So that's kind of how they put their core vision together. And as we start to put that together, one of the things we have to do is we have to do a SWOT analysis. And I don't know anybody who does not know what a SWOT analysis is. I'm telling you right now that 95% of the people don't do it right. They gloss over it. Those of you who are former Reinhardt undergrads, you're gonna understand SWOT because you've done it. But even at that aspect, people don't do it right. So we want to gather data about our consumers, and we want to start to look at what are our strengths. What are our weaknesses? And to understand those are internal. That's within our organization. And then we want to start to look at the opportunities that are out there for us outside of our organization, and then what are the threats to our organization. And we really can't do anything without honestly doing this. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. To me, and for your project, or for your first assignment, I would do it graphically. I think it's easier to understand. You can go on On the internet, you can search SWOT analysis PowerPoints, and it'll give you some slides that you can use. But there's more than one way. The problem is people don't want to think about this. They don't really understand. They might know their own strengths or weaknesses. They're pretty good at the internal part. The external part, really, they're not good at. They're not very good at opportunities. And so I challenge you guys this week to really dig into this and see if you can identify this for your organization. So just some SWOT analysis. So those of you who follow the NBA for years, the Detroit Pistons played outside of downtown Detroit. They played in kind of a more affluent part of the city. And as they started to do their SWOT, they found out that, the greater population of their target market lived in inner city. And so that drove the move to putting a new arena downtown. And they used this identification of their target markets to use a school voucher type program that rewarded kind of inner city low income kids for having good grades that allowed them and their family to come to games. So that's just an example of how they kind of identified some strengths and some weaknesses of their organization. This is kind of just a broad example. An athletics club manager, they might survey their clients and find out that a large number of them have like orthopedic problems, asthma problems. Well, that's an opportunity. And so they would develop programming to address those issues in their clientele. The NFL, the USTA, they've used fan surveys, focus groups to come up with data. But one of the best things they've done is they've put on the fan hat. And what that means is they've looked at the experience from the fans' perspective. They tested toilets. They took pictures of different things. They looked at parking to try to get an overview of what they were doing good, what they were doing bad, what were opportunities for them to improve their organization, and what were threats to their well-being. Then after I do my SWOT, or after you do your SWOT analysis, you've got to kind of reevaluate your strategies in the direction that you're going, okay? And see if the direction you're going is in sync with your organization and what your SWOT is telling you. Okay, and that's going to kind of allow you to develop a purpose in what you're doing. Then step 2, you've got to develop some goals and some objectives. It's an ongoing process, guys. You don't develop these goals and objectives and just say, "Shit, man, we're done." It's not how it works. These are constantly changing and updating. And being able to clarify these and change these and modify these are really what sets an effective manager, leader apart from somebody that's just kind of along for the ride. This cannot be something that is static. It has to be dynamic and completely changing. So just some examples. This was from a minor league hockey team. These were their goals and objectives. To create high awareness and visibility for the Grizzlies in the community, we want positive publicity for all programs in which we're involved. It's not enough just to do these programs. People have to see pictures, read about us, and see involvement on TV to generate goodwill and positive feelings about the Grizzlies in all areas of the community. Now, those first two could really fit for any organization. Then some more specific ones: to develop new programs and support existing programs which encourage youth participation in ice hockey and street hockey. To identify quality organizations and provide them with Grizzlies tickets to be distributed to 100,000 underprivileged, handicapped, at-risk, and deserving youth throughout our market area. So that was kind of the goals and objectives that drove their marketing plan. And then, and basically right there is kind of where we will cut off for our first assignment. But step 3, we would start to kind of develop either a way to market tickets or sales, or a way to get people to our organization, to get them to what we're doing. And understand that Marketing is a huge part of generating revenue, and it goes hand in hand with sales. And at this point, we would start to look at our target markets. And that's really what your second assignment is going to lean on, is looking at what the target markets are for your organization. And we would look at things like demographic information. We would look at location, psychographic, which is kind of interest, opinions, how much they use the product, and what they think about the product. And you want to actually collect data for your organization, but you would give me an idea, or you will give me an idea of what kind of data you would need in order to be able to develop a plan. And we're going to use an escalator concept, and this is part of your discussion for this week. And the idea of this is we want to get people to our organization, and we want to retain them. It's much cheaper to retain current customers than it is to attract new ones. And so this escalator concept, you really need to understand, guys. It's kind of the key to developing a fan base, developing a group of people who are attracted to your brand. And so everybody starts on this ground level, meaning they don't know anything about it, or they could maybe be misinformed about it, or they could be aware of it and they don't really attend it or use it, or they could maybe see it through media. I mean, they're kind of an indirect consumer. Then you kind of get this stage of being a light user, and that's going to be different for each organization. It maybe means they attend 1 game a year, maybe 10 games a year. And then at the top of the rung would be, they attend almost every game, okay? Or they spend a significantly amount of money on our product. An example of maybe like a grocery store, a heavy user would be somebody that's the only place they shop for groceries. That's where they go. Okay, so part of your discussion this week is going to be to explain in your organization how people are moved along this ladder and what that looks like. I'll give you an example for me personally. I had never seen a women's volleyball game in person, college volleyball game. We didn't have it when I was in high school, so I was a media consumer. Okay, I had only watched SEC type games on TV. And through having students in class, I started to go see our games at Reinhardt. I realized how exciting it was. It was fun to watch, and so that moved me up that ladder. And understand what we're really wanting to do is we're wanting to, get data about our people, about our fan base through a market analysis, communicate those people, get fans, grow them as fans, and then retain them as fans. And basically this step 3, it involves the 5 Ps, and we're not going to go too much into those, but we're essentially trying to sell our product. We're trying to establish the ideal price. We're trying to develop promotions at which drive people to use our product. We're trying to use public relations to get the word out for our product, and we're trying to make people understand where they can go to either buy our product, use our product, or watch our product. And so the step 4 is to basically start to develop and integrate our plan. And so we have to make sure everybody's on board with that. We have to make sure that we have a strategy in place. We have to coordinate those 5 Ps into our entire organization, top to bottom. And we have to start to develop, either promotions or packages that will make people become a customer and stay a customer. And again, we will get somewhat into this, but this is this is a multi-year process. And then obviously the last step is that we constantly evaluate it. Okay, meaning it should be a constant breathing document, and we have to be nimble enough to change it based on changes in our environment. Okay. And it's really, really simple to figure out kind of how it makes us money, guys. If our consumers are satisfied, It's basically whatever those product benefits are minus the cost to produce them. Okay. And again, a lot of times marketing can't be seen for the money through marketing not necessarily seen like it is for sales, but it's a hugely important part of our organization. And so for this week's assignment, I'll go over how that should look, what I expect from you. But it's a good opportunity for you guys to be able to evaluate your own organizations.